We need to think about gateways, ancient gateways to modern gateways, to the UFO world or the spirit world. You know? Now we have to understand that spirits they need an authority to be at a certain location, right? They need an authority over someone in order for them to be able to have to be able to victimize them, Just like haunted places, right, it's very rare for supernatural experiences to take place. It's like that with UFOs as well. It's like it's very rare. You know what I mean? It's like those woods that I used to go to. It was very rare for me to experience anything strange up there. Very rare in that particular location. Yeah. See, we need to think of this rationally. If there's aliens somehow coming from another planet, why don't they just reveal themselves? Why don't they just go to the White House lawn? Why don't they go in the streets and just show themselves on TV? What's stopping them from doing that? Why are they so secret like spirits are? See, one of the things I've noticed, right, is that it appears that UFOs need an authority over someone because of a gateway the person has opened up to these creatures. Because these creatures have somehow gotten a hold of Nikola Tesla's technology of UFOs. Because he was the originator. He originally invented anti-gravity. You see, these creatures are they're likely to be part demon, part human. That's why they're alive. So you can kill them. But in the spirit world, you can't kill them in the spirit world. The spirit world is no time. You can't, in hell, you're like the living dead. The smell of rotten, decaying flesh down in hell. People look like they're dead. The demons down in hell look like they're dead. Even if they're lizard-like and whatnot, they look like they're dead. Their eyes look dead, but they're still alive. They can still move around. They're still animated. It's really strange, but it's horrifying to see that from people's witnesses. But anyway, UFOs can be found, of course, in haunted locations. Throughout my research, you find that pattern a lot, in UFO books, that same with Lizard Man, a haunted location where people have seen ghosts, things like that. It's like the spirit world and UFOs are connected to each other. Just like the demons down at hell speaking telepathy, the creatures in these UFOs can speak telepathically as well. If you do any UFO research. Now, what can open a gateway? We have to think to ourselves. What are the possible things? Well, according to in the biblical terms, sinful things can attract evil spirits. The saying goes that birds of a feather flock together. It's like bad people get attracted to other bad people, and reasonably good people or good people get attracted to other good people. Have something in common with each other, you see. Well, because demons love murder, it makes sense why if a murder takes place in a house, that house sometimes usually becomes haunted by spirits. Because a gateway got opened to them, you see. Certain sinful things can open gateways to the spirit world. And that can cause a house to become haunted, which can also lead to gateways to UFOs as well. Because sometimes in haunted houses, they can have problems with UFOs as well, sometimes, or haunted woodlands, things like that. Depends on who opened the gateway. So again, people practicing the occult, like seances, Ouija boards, that can open gateways to the spirit world, to evil demons, because you're not meant to do that. Death, like like maybe dead humans in your house, that can lead to your house, it can open a gateway to the demonic realm, because it's to do with, it attracts spirits. Spirits are attracted to dark things. A bit like, you need to think of it like, you know how maybe Gothic people, they like dark things, you know, they like death, and they like the look of skulls, they like the look of torture, maybe, you know, like Gothic kind of people. Well, it's like that with demons. Demons are like that. They love death. So anything that they like, they get attracted to, and that can lead to type of gateways opening up to them. See, this is one of the reasons why graveyards and funeral homes can actually be haunted. But, you know, see, in biblical times, the dead were not meant to be near God's temple, because it was unholy, it was unclean. And that's the reason why demons are called unclean spirits as well. Dead bodies are unclean, you see, in the eyes of God. And if a priest had been near a dead body, they were not allowed to go into the temple of God, you see. This is just to help you understand the spiritual principles behind this, behind unclean things. Now it makes sense why in Satanism they do practice murder, like maybe killing chickens or killing humans, to doing lots of sinful things, unclean things like drinking blood, to things that demons love, to fornication, like orgies and things like that. These are the things that demons are into. So so they do these things so demons can get gateways to the demonic realm, because then the demons have an authority to be there, and that's why they can haunt places, you know, because of certain witchcraft activities taking place. Bill Schnobden talked about that when he was with a Druid, when he was working with a Druid in the occult. He said he saw UFOs nearby, all these creatures inside of a UFO, watching them out in a field practicing the occult. So UFOs can get attracted to people that are involved with the occult as well. Don't you find that kind of interesting? Maybe it's because they've got connections to the demon world, these UFOs, these creatures that claim to be aliens. Then, of course, to answer the whole, well, what are these creatures and these UFOs? Well, Mary Baxter, in her book called A Divine Revelation of Satan's Deceptions, page 145, he said, you know, Jesus said to her, down in hell, he said, "Come, there is much more to show you." We went to an area where there were many huge cages. I wept when I saw them. I was standing beside the Lord, and he was crying too. Jesus told me, "Child, look at these cages." In each cage was something that was part human and part beast. He said, "Man is trying to copy God and create a human with beasts. They are trying to raise an army. My Father is so grieved over this, and I am so grieved, that he is going to destroy the earth with great judgment if my bride does not awaken and begin to pray and seek his counsel and do what I say." He also says there are secret laboratories all over the earth, including the jail system. Woe to you, earth, woe to those doing this, for they are using the jail inmates for scientific purposes, and you never hear from them again. Right? So there's certain scientific experiments that Jesus was saying to Mary Baxter down in hell that's happening on the earth just now. Yeah. Then we've got the situation here that the UFOs might be working with the government. Think of the Bohemian Grove where all the governments go to. Those rituals of strange, crazy activities that take place there, the strange robes, they could be opening a gateway to the spirit world. All these CIA people that go there. See, one of the things that I find interesting is that the so-called aliens that speak to their abductees in the book called The Mothman Prophecies by John Keel is that the creatures keep telling people what they want to hear. They keep telling them things that's part of the propaganda from the government. Like they say things like atomic bombs, and they talk about how they never tell people things that are unknowable, but they just spout off government propaganda. So they could be working secretly with the governments. And with the Black Ops man, right, that was part of NATO, that spoke with Richard D. Hall. He said that for some reason he would go off. He would get foreknowledge of where an UFO would appear, like in another country, and then he would get into the helicopter, and then they would fly to another country of where the UFOs are going to appear, and then they would start appearing, and then they would have to clean up the mess after the UFOs had been and gone, after mutilating humans and things like that. But he says he didn't know how NATO would know in advance of where these creatures would be. Because that doesn't make sense, does it? How can you predict where they're going to be? Unless they've been secretly working with these creatures. I would say that's quite a reasonable theory. I also find it interesting that the aliens, for some reason, and spirits hate marriages. Let's read about that. 131. Because, basically it says here, the phenomenon has an almost pornographic preoccupation with our mating practices. One of its most celebrated games is a manipulation of romantic relationships. Early investigators of the fairy episodes, such as novelist Sir Walter Scott, noted that fairies seem to delight in bringing people together and fostering love, or conversely indulging in conspiracies to force lovers apart. The Bell Witch of Tennessee is supposed to have manipulated the love life of a Bell daughter, almost tragically. Brad Stager, one of America's best-known investigators of the paranormal, has been involved in several poltergeist cases in which the mischievous poltergeists tried to wreck romances and marriages. Nothing can quite affect a new groom's virility like being physically hurled from his wedding bed by an unseen force and pelted with flying ashtrays thrown by invisible hands. Unbelievable though it may seem, such things do happen. Flying saucer contactees often have their marriages disrupted, even destroyed, after they begin their liaisons with the space people. And there are many cases in which flying saucer enthusiasts have been brought together, literally hurled together, through their mutual interest. Could it be that some people are programmed to love by the mysterious force? Right, so that's him. So there's just an example there. And then, of course, we find that the Illuminati wanted to rid marriages back in the 1700s, how they wanted to take over the world and rid marriages and rid families, because they're trying to create a type of system, a communist society.